Come on, we gotta get up.
Oh,
Get up.
I keep thinking about this story. There's this video that kills you 7 days after you watch it. The second it's over, the phone rings, and this boy says,
"Hello, this is Cool Cat."
What does she want from me?
This mark on your hand. It says bully.
I'm a green boy. I'm a green boy now.
It's Betty Bye time. Wow, it's pretty dark in here. Which button is it? Maybe it's this one. Or maybe it's this one. Oh, here it is. Boogie!
You've opened up a door. And now no one is safe.
Next up is an episode of the Canadian TV show known as Cybersix. Now, although this show is Canadian, the original comic comes from Argentina. Basically, Cybersix is a female superhero who cross-dresses as a male teacher during the day. Now, for some reason, my 8-year-old brain did not clue into the fact that it was cross-dressing, and I was always under the impression that she literally changed genders every single day and night. Also, her brother's brain is trapped inside the body of a badass Black Panther. Overall, the show was actually pretty fucking cool to watch as a kid. I vividly remember tuning into shows like this and Gargoyles to get my fix of more darker toned children's entertainment. Oh, and by the way, the theme song is pretty fucking kick-ass. Now, when it comes down to whether or not this show holds up as an adult, let's just say that I don't have any plans to marathon it anytime soon. Most of the show was fairly forgettable overall, but there is one episode that kind of fucked with me, and that episode is called The Eye. Now, this is all pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna spend too long on this one. Basically, this eye thing shows up and starts sucking the life out of anyone that looks directly into it. Yuck. As it starts out, it's not so bad. I mean, it's a little scary and morbid and not all that fun to watch as a young child, but the more it consumes, the bigger it gets, and it only winds up becoming more terrifying. Well, fuck. And if that wasn't bad enough, eventually it makes its way to the stadium and turns itself into super high-quality nightmare fuel. Suffice it to say, the imagery in this scene stuck with me for quite a while. And in case you're wondering, eventually she kills the thing and everyone's souls, or whatever they are, return peacefully to their corresponding bodies. Yay. Next up is a scene from Don Bluth's Rock-a-Doodle. I think the biggest problem with this movie is that it's not cohesive in the slightest. Almost everything that happens in the film feels like an obligation for the script rather than an actual adventure. Lots of things happen, but there aren't really any good reasons why things happen. Sure, there might be a catchy song or two in there, but overall the movie feels largely unfocused. So unfocused that the vast majority of the film just winds up being forgettable. Apparently one scene wasn't all that forgettable though, because it kind of freaked me out as a kid. So the movie starts out with a little musical number, and it turns out that this entire scene was in this kid's storybook, and as it's raining in the story, it turns out that it's raining pretty fucking hard in real life too. It gets so bad that this kid's entire family leaves him there to try and save the animals and pile up more sandbags. It looks like they're having a really rough time, so the kid's like, oh, I know who can help them out, the good guy from the storybook I'm reading.
I know the answer. We need Chanticleer.
What a stupid name, Chanticleer, or sometimes pronounced Chanticleer. So now his family's gonna die, I guess. This face will never not be funny. All of the sudden, without any kind of warning, the movie turns into some trippy nightmare. What the fuck is going on? The evil owl dude shows up and he's like, yo, I'm super pissed at you because you touched my face.
You put your finger in the Duke's face.
You thought you were just harmlessly pointing at a page on a children's book? Well, now I'm gonna eat you. There was something a little terrifying about a gigantic killer owl breaking into your room in the middle of the night. And there was something especially terrifying about the imagery and presentation of the scene as it goes on. You just disintegrated a helpless, screaming child at the beginning of your film. Now, it turns out that our main character is not dead, and the owl just turned him into a kitten because he feels as though he would digest him better.
Mom! Dad! Wake me up!
Wake me up inside. Wake me up inside.
So anyway, they scare away the owl with a flashlight, and our main character comes to a horrific realization.
Jeepers! I'm a furry!
And into the trash you go. In case you're wondering, the actual line is, I'm all furry, but this kid can't talk for shit, so who cares? Now that's all I have to say about this movie, but before I get on to the next one, let me tell you about a YouTuber named TommyNC2010. Now, I don't usually watch vlog channels, but I've been watching Tommy for quite some time. As many of you already know, I'm a big fan of character studies, and although Tommy's not playing a character, he is quite the character himself, and you cannot find anyone else like him on YouTube. Anyway, in the summer of 2015, Tommy had his very first Mailbox Monday, during which you can see the Cool Cat movie and t-shirt that I anonymously sent to him.
Very interesting.
The very next week, I sent him another Cool Cat DVD because I thought it would be kind of funny.
Somebody sent another Cool Cat DVD. I appreciate it. Shout out, I got me another copy of Cool Cat. So now I have 2 copies.
Anyway, one day Tommy messages me suggesting I review the movie Rock-a-Doodle, and I was like, that doesn't really seem like the type of movie I'd review on this channel, but if I do it, I'll give you a shout out. Then when I started revisiting films for this video, I was like, holy shit, I guess I'm actually going to be reviewing Rock-a-Doodle on this channel. So because I'm a man of my word and because I actually watch and enjoy his content, here's Tommy to give some brief thoughts on Rock-a-Doodle.
Hello, YMS. Oh, thank you so much. It's really much appreciated for you to have me here. My opinion on Rock-a-Doodle is that I kind of do like the movie, but it was kind of creepy and zany. Was I ever scared as a kid? No, not really. Is there any other movies that I've been frightened of in the past? The only movie I said relatively scared me was Ghostbusters. You know, as they jump out at her and she goes, "Rah!" That scared the ever-loving crap out of me. So folks, this has been my review on Rock-a-Doodle with YMS. I'm keeping you on the inside fact.
Anyway, if you want to check out Tommy's channel, the link is in the description. I do plan on being back on his Tommy Talk show at some point in the near future. Feel free to leave a comment on his newest video saying Tommy is the coolest cat in town.
I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I popped that thing into my DVD player. I was traveling, and I couldn't watch like 5 minutes of it, and I shut it off. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I could not watch it. I wanted to put a pine cone through up my rectum just watching that. It was so dreadful. I'd rather blow myself up than watch an hour of Cool Cat. Honestly, it was a waste of my mind space, and I needed 3 minutes of my time, so I turned on a movie that was more awesome, Wolf of Wall Street, honestly.
Next up is an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I can't believe I almost forgot how awesome this theme song is. And the Buffy theme's pretty great too. Now you can say whatever you want about whether or not I should have been watching this show as a kid. I mean, it is a show about punching vampires, but the YTV I watched back in the day wasn't afraid to air it despite it generally appealing to older audiences. And even though the subject matter was mature enough that it couldn't really be called a kid's show, all of the episodes I watched were pretty tame and didn't really affect me in any kind of negative way, except for maybe one particular episode. Season 4, episode 10 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer is titled Hush. This episode revolves around a group of demon things known as the Gentlemen. Basically, the episode starts out like normal, but pretty soon things start getting a little fan-fiction-y. Alright class, for today's lesson on language, I'm gonna need Buffy to lay down on this desk so that this guy can make out with her.
This feels very strange.
Don't worry. If I kiss you, it'll make the sun go down.
So now the lights are out and everybody has mysteriously disappeared from class. And now Buffy hears something ominous and creepy.
Can't even shout, can't even cry. The gentlemen are coming by. Looking in windows, knocking on doors. They need to take 7 and they might take yours.
Now is this just me or is this whole sequence kind of similar to A Nightmare on Elm Street?
2 friends coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
I don't know, maybe the whole creepy little girl singing about foreboding danger is just a bit of a trope.
Can't call to mom, can't say a word. You're gonna die screaming, but you won't be heard.
Well, that was a weird sound effect, but anyway, it was all a dream. And considering this is the only part in the episode where these things invade someone's dream, maybe it's possible that this was kind of an homage? Anyway, later in the episode we see that it's nighttime and lo and behold, here the gentlemen are. They open up a little box and then we see something leaving the mouths of everyone in the town while they're sleeping. Just this guy's face alone probably would have freaked me out enough as a kid, but no, it gets worse. Buffy wakes up and starts noticing things are a little weird. Shit. So these things have stolen everyone's voices, hence the lines in the song we heard earlier. And you know what? This was actually a pretty cool and well-delivered episode concept. I mean, how awesome is it that they didn't dumb it down by adding subtitles? It really adds to the uniqueness of the episode that you actually have to try to understand what they're saying. And not only that, but it's much more accurate as to what the characters would be experiencing themselves. If you're paying enough attention, you can translate it pretty accurately too. Good morning. Hey, can you hear me? I've gone deaf. Anyway, the episode goes on and each character winds up coming to this realization. Some of it is pretty comical. It isn't long before we see the overall impact it's having on this town. So now we have these guys over here fighting for some reason. That's literally the only reason I showed you this scene. So now the gentlemen go out for a night on the town. I would almost think that they levitate so that their victims don't hear them coming, but for whatever reason they bring along these gimp things wherever they go, so I guess that cancels that out. Anyway, they creepily float past people's doors, silently communicating with each other, until it seems as though they've found what they're looking for. And this is the part that really messed with me when I was younger. So this guy hears a knock on his door, he opens it up, and god damn it. Now, obviously, you can see why this one was a little bit traumatizing to a younger version of myself. I mean, being held down and having your heart dissected out of you while you're still alive is pretty bad already, but the fact that you can't even call for help makes this infinitely more terrifying to think about. I love how Buffy just nonchalantly walks into this guy's room. I'd almost like for the scene to go on a bit longer to have this guy find her and mouth the words, "What the fuck?" So Rupert studies some fairy tales and begins to learn more about these creatures, resulting in a silent slideshow for the benefit of our main characters. Seriously, if there's any reason at all to watch this episode, it's this scene. Don't really want to spoil the experience though, so just trust my recommendation. There isn't really anything else in this episode that freaked me out as a kid. Just a bunch of cheesy fight scenes with punching and kicking. Buffy gets her voice back and she screams and their heads explode. Nevertheless, the few scary scenes in this episode sure did manage to stick with me. Like, I don't even remember anything else about this show, really. I remember liking it when I was younger, but that's about it. Next up is Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. This movie movie is a little weird. It's way too cheesy to be taken seriously, but it doesn't really make all that great of a comedy either. For the most part, this movie is pretty boring, but obviously there were at least a few parts that really got to me when I was younger. So when the Martians finally show up to planet Earth, it's already almost 40 minutes through the movie, and the entire first half of the film doesn't really exhibit much serious tone at all. So when shit actually starts going down, it kind of caught me off guard, to say the least. Here I am as a little kid watching this dumb movie my parents put on. Every character is more like an over-exaggerated caricature. Everything seems to be all hunky-dory until suddenly... well, isn't that just dandy? I think part of the reason why this really got to me is that all they have to do is just touch you with this infinitely reaching super laser, and within seconds your entire body aside from your skeleton is completely disintegrated. There was also something a little extra terrifying about being unable to reason with them. Like if I was a kid and I was watching a movie where the main conflict was brought out of some misunderstanding, I'd always imagine these fantasy scenarios in my head after the movie about what I would do in that situation. Like as long as there was some sort of possibility that it could have some stupid cheesy let's just be friends ending, then I'd usually be pretty okay. But in any situation where the villain's motivation is nothing but I want to kill you and I don't give a shit what you have to say, then any crazy fantasy resulting from it would only wind up keeping me up at night. And according to this film, the only reason why these things would not immediately attack you is for the explicit purpose of you letting your guard down. Now that scene right there is definitely the one that freaked me out the most. Knowing that they could take out an entire room in seconds was not exactly a comforting thought. Apparently some people got pretty freaked out over the weird experiments the aliens did on some of the characters, but the only other scene that really got to me when I was younger was when one of the Martians disguised themselves as a human being. She stands in front of the White House and within 5 seconds this fucking idiot notices her and wants to get his dick wet. He's like, I'm the press secretary, I can give you a personalized tour, let's go inside. And despite the Martian never once saying anything, he shows her a secret room and tries to make out with her.
Could we get that gum out of your mouth?
Now that scene freaked me out enough as a kid, but even still today, the thought of having my finger bit clean off is a little unnerving. Ouch. By the way, the humans wind up defeating the aliens and it's the stupidest thing ever. Turns out they really don't like grandma's music taste. This is seriously how they defeat the aliens. They just drive around with big-ass speakers until all of their brains explode. This is no different than defeating the monster blood with airline food. It's lazy, stupid, and it's not funny at all. Fuck off. Did these things freak you out at all? Yes, no, maybe? I've been noticing a lot of comments that my younger self should stop being such a fucking pussy. Good news, he's not a pussy, he's dead. He doesn't exist anymore. I'm the new me. But either way, something tells me you won't be saying that when you see my #1 pick in part 3. We've got 3 more shows to go, and the #1 spot is the entire reason I made this video. So stay tuned and you'll know exactly where I'm coming from.
Don't let your kids watch it!